Thank you for tuning in here to the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. Go check out the rest of the Helicast platform at verticalhelicast.com. There you'll see the Hangar Z podcast, the Helicopter podcast, Vertical MRO multiple podcasts, and this one, the Real ResQ. Now, a quick shout out to our sponsors for this episode. We've got Axness. Their mission, wireless intercom. Check them out at axness.com. And the Real ResQ Store. Get all your swag for your favorite podcast at therealresqstore.com. Now, coming up next in this episode, we're joined by two of the co-founders of Beacon ResQ. They're here to tell us everything they do and have done to help those in need after disasters happen. So please welcome our next two guests, Mr. Bob Pasquale and Jen Miller. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I'm psyched to have a couple people on because of what they're doing and a little bit of behind the scenes action to help those in need. I love these kind of stories. I love what you guys and agencies like this do. It's amazing. So we've got Bob Pasquale, right?
Yep.
Oh God, thank God I got that right. I was actually kind of nervous right there. And we've got Jen Miller. They are co-founders of Beacon ResQ. And let's see, Bob, you're the CEO of the company right now. And Jen, she's a nurse, medical team lead, and the medical liaison. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
You got it.
We had a lot of titles going on for Jen, but we had to narrow it down a little bit. We're going to say Bob just badass and leave it at that, but no, we got CEO. All right. Oh, great. Hey, thank you guys for so much for coming on and joining me today. I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit. But before we get into the Beacon ResQ and your foundation, Bob, let's start with you. Give us a little background about you and then what brought you into creating Beacon ResQ.
Yeah. So I'm retired law enforcement out of San Jose, California. Moved out to Tennessee with my family a few years back and just randomly was able to get connected with most of the people that are currently on our team and all the different founders that helped create Beacon ResQ. And it's just given kind of a purpose piece, right? Once you retire, you start looking for some other way of plugging in, continuing to help people because you kind of miss being involved in all of that. So it's been a great ability to help people and keep that going.
You really miss running down the bad guys? You want to go rescue?
That way, yeah. It's kind of in a similar aspect, right? You're still getting out there and helping people, but yeah, these people actually thank you on this side of the fence. So
the other ones are like, oh, it's the police.
Yeah, they don't like it when you catch them. So
yeah, no. I can say that now because my daughter's in school to be a police officer. So like, hey, all right, Jen, what about you? Like a little background about you and how did you become into the Beacon ResQ?
Yes. So my background obviously is nursing, and I've always focused on emergency medicine. That's always been my jam, and huge passion for the outdoors. I'm a horse girl. I love being outside. And so I'd always geared my continuing education credits towards like pre-hospital, trauma, advanced wilderness life support, tactical casualty combat care, those types of things. And opportunity came about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, to do some disaster mission work. And I jumped on that. And during those times, crossed paths with the other founders. And the rest is history. Here we are.
I love it. Now, seeing you like emergency medicine, I imagine you're working in the ER.
So yes, I've done travel nursing. It's always been in the ER. I think I did my obligatory 2 months on med surg, and the rest, after that, it was always in the ER. So
Nice. You know what? I love my ER nurses because, like, as a paramedic, when you're rolling in, I'm like, I'm sorry. And then I walk out the door. Sometimes it's side by side with somebody like Bob. We're sorry.
Yeah.
And we're out.
I did it too. I said, I'm sorry. And I walked out. Yeah.
I might have given him a little too much Narcan. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Was to get the respiratory drive back. I remember. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's great. I'm psyched. Okay, so now let's get into Beacon Rescue. What is Beacon Rescue, and how do you guys help when disaster strikes?
So we try to focus on several different aspects, right? Obviously, there's that first 24 hours window we try to get in to help with search and rescue. But we try to do it in a collaborative way, not only with other nonprofits that we network with and partner with, but also with the local first responders, whether it's fire, rescue, or police, or emergency management systems. And we try to bridge that gap between those two so that people aren't kind of redoing each other's efforts because nobody knows what each other are doing. And we find that is so common in this realm because there's so many good-hearted people out there that just flood these areas to help, but they have no direction. So they'll just put a boat in the water and try to knock on doors, but now someone else is putting a boat in the water and knocking on the same door. And then ultimately fire rescue puts a boat in the water and knocks on the same door, right? So we try to help be that middle, bridge that gap, but also help with the search and rescue aspect as well.
That's pretty cool. So you're basically trying to be the go-to center of logistics and, hey, this is where things need to go and happen.
Yeah, to a certain degree, right? And there's some great organizations out there that are already collaborative. So I'm not going to say we're creating this, right? We're not reinventing the wheel here. But one of the things we're doing, like we work with a group here in Clarksville, YAPAC, that is very collaborative with other organizations. Their main focus is on aid delivery and getting aid to these certain places. So nice. Our function with them is that boots on the ground and finding where those areas are that need what aid, and if they have it, help them get it there, whether, be routing them around roads that aren't accessible or whatnot. And then there's another great organization we work with called Fill the Gap, or Fill the Need, out of Louisiana. And her whole organization model is simply collaboration. So again, we help with boots on the ground. We're a bridge between these different groups and organizations, and then we can find all the pieces that need to be fit. And we provide communications as well, because that's something that is lacking quite a bit, which we can go into further later, because that's a pretty big piece.
Yeah, communication is one of the hardest things to do, especially when a natural disaster comes through, because the first thing that goes is your standard cell towers, your landlines, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, no communication at all.
Yeah.
You're sending up smoke signals and like literally SOS on the ground. And I'm not kidding when I'm saying this stuff. Like, it's how do you get a signal out to say, hey, I need help? And it's out there. So
it is out there.
Signal might have been a little bit of exaggeration, but
it's actually not. It's actually not. Yeah. I used to instruct wilderness survival, and we taught how to do a proper smoke signal for help.
A proper smoke signal.
Proper is the key word.
Dude, I remember, because I went through a survival training too, and it was amazing. Like, you're stacking the wood around, and then you're just like, launch all the branches on top, and you're like, oh, epic smoke signal. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, what I want to say, I want to get into North Carolina because this is kind of how we connected. I had made a post about an interview that I had done with Matt McSwain and Andy Petrie, and they were some of the pilots that went out and organized and helped with some of the release efforts with their R-22s, their R-44s. And I had made a post, and Jen shared it. And I'm like, oh, hey, thank you so much. And she's like, oh, it's great to get the word out. And then I'm like, well, what do you do? And this is how we connected. Yep. Well, in that conversation, Jen, you and I are talking about what you guys did for North Carolina. And I love it. But it didn't end there. It continued on to Florida, which we're going to get into. But Jed, bring us into North Carolina. How did you guys get like set up to go up there, and what did you do for help?
So I actually came up after the initial team. The initial team came in, and Bob, if you want to kind of help remind me, we came in and started out in Eastern Tennessee, actually, and collaborated network there before moving into North Carolina. And there was a lot of, again, communications, right? We were able to provide Starlinks to multiple organizations and people for them to have just just basic communications. Emerge local EOCs, churches, fire departments, places like that, so they could have those communications up and running again.
Beautiful. You said Eastern Tennessee, right?
Yeah, I was leading a team in Eastern Tennessee the first week, or the first, I think we were there for maybe 4 days, maybe 5 days, I forget. And then Jen came in with a team into North Carolina as we were pulling out of East Tennessee. Not because there wasn't a need, but because most of us had to go back to our day jobs. The weekend was over, kind of thing, Yeah. So we're all volunteers at this point. So we do have some limitations, but the back end work can continue still at that point.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, is there anything that stands out to you guys in Eastern Tennessee? And I'm asking that because all the stuff that I've talked about so far, the people that have come on the podcast have talked specifically about Western North Carolina. But those are other areas that were hit hard. Eastern Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky. There was a lot of stuff going on. I know National Guard has got involved with Kentucky because I remember seeing videos of stuff, them hoisting people out of flooded areas. But for you guys, what did you guys do in Eastern Tennessee?
So we assisted in a town called Elizabethton. We were connected with them through YAPAC. They were connected through the mayor of that city. So she reached out directly to YAPAC and asked for assistance. So we brought some supplies, including generators and stuff out there immediately to help out. One of the things that stood out was the communications, right? The cell phones obviously went down because of power outages and landslides and whatnot, but the terrain kind of got in the way and interfered with your standard radios too that first responders use. So we ended up propping up a Starlink for Task Force 2 where they were working out of so that they could get comms back to the main EOC and back and forth. So that was a major issue, and looking at that and how we could do that different next time gave us some good ideas too, because we're pretty capable of setting up larger communication structures at this point. We just didn't bring that equipment with us, and we should have. So
was that a lesson learned going right into North Carolina? Because you literally went like back to back from.
Yeah, that was a lesson learned, and part of it was some of our staff wasn't able to deploy on that one for various family reasons. And so we left some of that stuff behind because the person that would have been the key component of getting all that to work wasn't available. So we were trying to focus more on assisting with initial search and rescue and welfare checks and stuff like that. But it was definitely, even the Starlinks we brought were used pretty quick. So it was needed. We should have brought more. So it was a lesson learned. And in the future, we're going to expand that portion of our business. So
nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Wow. I hadn't even talked to anybody about Eastern Tennessee, and there was a lot of damage there too. So
yeah,
I'm psyched you guys were there.
To be honest, right, I talked to TEMA, which is Tennessee Emergency Management Association. It's the state level. And this is the first time in Tennessee's history that they had to request outside assistance from outside the state. So they did get hit pretty hard. The news I know is circling around that Asheville corridor of North Carolina, which definitely took the brunt of everything, right? But it was widespread as how much devastation. I mean, there's towns in Georgia that were hit really hard too that don't get much mention as well.
Were you guys responding to anywhere down there too?
No,
I don't know.
Georgia.
We didn't hit Georgia. No. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
All right. So when you guys leave? Well, actually, did you leave people in like what Eastern Tennessee and then send another group over into North Carolina?
So the team that was in Tennessee split off at that point. One went down into the Swannanoa area of North Carolina because we had gotten word that there was an elderly lady and her daughter that were trapped. They didn't have gas to get out, and she was on chemotherapy, so she needed to make her chemo appointment. So we gave her 2, 5-gallon things of gas, and it was a 2-hour drive from where we were, so it wasn't too far. So she drove down there, delivered the gas, got them out, and then stayed for a couple days to assess and help with coordination right out of that area, and actually identified several needs, including insulin, which we were able to coordinate. Another organization had it, and they were able to get it over to that area as well. So, and I think that's where then Jen and her team kind of came in and met up in that area and continued on from there.
So Jen, you show up, got a boots on the ground. You're like, all right, we're setting up a unit here and go.
So we came up, we drove up into towards Spruce Pine, and we actually met up with another organization that had reached out, have been put in touch with us. And this is the Freedom Jeep Club of Lake Wiley in South Carolina. And their point of contact, Shauna Burris, had reached out to me and said, hey, we were told you guys can get aid to where it needs to go, and we have a ton of aid. And I am getting pictures and lists, and I'm going, holy smokes, this is amazing. I mean, generators, fuel, just all kinds of, items for babies. And they had actually gotten a request to come up to the hospital in Spruce Pines. And so I drove up from Orlando into Charlotte, and then we ended up linking up with them in Morganton and headed up into Spruce Pines to do the drop off at the hospital up there. And they actually had the Rhode Island DMAT team out there as well, with a full field hospital. And so I got to have some conversations with the CNO, the chief nursing officer of the hospital, and Jason, I forget his last name, but he was the team lead for that DMAT team from Rhode Island at that time. And just ask, how are you guys doing? What do y'all need? What's the situation like? And they said that they did have, they had been sent extra staff, and they were, fully functional, fully operational. And so that was really cool to see that despite, all the chaos and the catastrophe there, that you did have a fully functioning hospital and the field hospital on top of that. And while we were there, of course, helicopters were coming in and whatnot. So, but it was really, for me, it was really nice to see that. And so we did that, a drop off. And from there went to a nursing home that had absorbed patients from other nursing homes. And so they had requested some specific aid there that we were able to deliver. And it was neat to see. They were also housing citizens from the community that still could not get to their front door because of mud and whatnot. And so, in speaking with some of the citizens, saying we need help just getting, the mud away just so we can get to our vehicles or have access to our front door. And so we're able to make some phone calls and get people connected with some other volunteers that we're thinking of bringing in some equipment to help do that. And it was neat to have some conversations with those nursing home residents too. It was nice to see that they were all safe basically. But they were very, very ecstatic over this aid drop off. And
sure of it.
That's when our team met up with other teammates from Beacon. They came up, they had left Avery County, and they had been in Avery, which is where Bob mentioned earlier, we had gotten a request from, was it one of the senators to bring in Starlinks there? Yep. And so in Avery, we were able to set up Starlinks for the Methodist Church, and the Methodist Church was housing the police officers, as well as the director.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, as well as the director for all of the county school cafeterias. She was nutritional director. Her husband's fully blind, and so I believe this was going to be like this was the first time she was able to contact either her mother or her daughter and message her since the flood had come through. And Jody, our teammate, he's a very stoic guy, but he definitely teared up when he talked about that. And just again, I mean, just something as simple yet as vital as communications, being able to have that up and running, right? For somebody to say, "Hey, Mom, I'm okay." It's such an important piece of all of this.
Oh yeah. That coming back to communication, it was like the Facebook post, the messages, they didn't go out for days because there was no way to get it out. So they got foundations like you that are coming out and let me set you up with the Starlink. Let me set you up with this. And boom, all of a sudden you're getting word out. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Communication is it's everything, right? But when you look at the long-term trauma responses in situations like this, right? When you can use your phone and either send a text or, a phone call and get a message out or receive a message to a family member, a loved one, a friend, that little piece can lessen the long-term trauma effects that you see down the road, right? Like the PTSD that might develop from this.
Correct.
Because these are very traumatic situations, right? Like this is not something that people typically ever deal with in their lifetime. So comms, it's all about the comms.
It is all about the comms. It totally is. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, while you guys, because when you go in and you set up an area and that's your spot, you guys turn into this, like the middleman hub. I'm going to say middleman hub, but you're pulling resources from every direction and then sending the other people in other areas of distress. And one of the ones that you mentioned, just getting insulin out there. And then another one was, which we talked a little bit ago, was like Narcan. What?
Yeah.
How did that even happen?
The Narcan was an interesting one. So a group reached out to me at some point, and I think it was probably kind of on a whim, maybe hoping that we could make something happen. They had gone through New York and gotten special approval to get 100 doses of Narcan, because apparently you have to get approval if it's over a certain amount. They're not sure what happened with that shipment, if it got rerouted or they just decided not to send it. But he reached out, and it was for the clinics in that area, right around Black Mountain and all those communities in North Carolina. Apparently the clinics were out and they were in rough shape. They needed it for obviously various reasons. But so I put feelers out in our networks, and I want to say less than 10 minutes, we had locked in over 500 doses of Narcan. And within 24 hours, it was delivered to them and they dispersed it from there. So it was incredible to see how effective a good network of people. I mean, putting something like that out, you don't know who would have Narcan on hand, but there are groups that, because of, that's such a thing within some, veteran groups and whatnot, right? Like they have connections to be able to get that for clinics within that community. And it just went like wildfire. So it was impressive to see how quickly things can work in the right circumstances. So.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis P&G wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The P&G wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
You're literally the best middleman ever.
Well, that's what we're shooting for. It's a lot of work on the backside. I tell you what, my phone was pretty much dead by 1:30 every day with the amount of text messages I was going back and forth with. But
and that's incredible.
It's really fun and interesting and very educational because, we'll have a team in the field, and whether we pre-stage for a hurricane that's coming in or we're out, in North Carolina or Florida or wherever, you still have people on the back end, that are running the tactical operations center, that are monitoring things, that are keeping watch over the team. Like, hey, there's this weather coming in, or this road has collapsed, or, whatever it may be, or we're having civil unrest here, right? We've got people on our team in the background monitoring all of that. And people that are, networking, and even us, like boots on the ground, right? You're constantly getting connected and networking. And it's those connections and collaborations and networking communities that really make things happen. It's everybody coming in and being able to sort through the noise of, is this Facebook post legit? Is it, has this been recycled 1,000 times by everyone that's very well-intentioning and well-meaning? But what is the current status as of right now, right? Do we still have to go rescue these people, or is this something that's already occurred, and thankfully they're all, together and safe. So there's always, there's so much going on all the time. But it's a really fantastic experience.
Yeah, if I could add on to that, and I think she brings up a good point, and it's one of the things I think we do well is we do cut out a lot of that noise. And I don't know how many times people would send a post, right? Like, this person's trapped or this or that's on Facebook. And we could send it back to our group that is phenomenal at tracking down the sources and to see how many times it's been through the internet, and, finally finding maybe someone that's even been there, like, no, it's not legit, right? Or it is legit and it hasn't been checked on. So that way we don't just chase down random stuff. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle too. And that's also what we can offer with some of that to our partners as well, because they'll ask and we'll send it through that whole chain of people that can do that on the backside. So that helps people not redoing each other's work or just chasing down random posts that have been out there for 4 days but recycled so they look like they're new, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. That is one of the hard things. And I don't think, I'll even speak for me. Like, I didn't realize how difficult it is to do something like that. Like on the back end, as you're scrolling through and you're trying to find, and then logistically sending one person out, then the next person out, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, we already checked this one. But, Bob and Jen checked that over there and they saw that and that already got sent. So for me to come in later and be like, oh, hey, Quinny's sending this. No, that's already taken care of. So there's a lot of work on that side. Like just filtering through that. Oh my gosh. I love the fact that you guys can do that. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And one of the things we're looking at pushing out for future that we're building out right now is a mapping solution, right? So not only would it allow us to track where our people are and our teams are with GPS trackers, but it would also allow us to push that out to our partners in our network, and they could tag where they're at. If they have supplies, they could post what they have. If they come across an area that has a need, they could tag it with what the need is. And so they could see what we're seeing in real time as well. And it takes a lot of that back and forth, just text messaging out of the equation, because now it's all right there in front of you, right? We have access to near real time satellite imagery we can overlay so people can see where the hit is, and where the hardest hits are. And so there's some good stuff coming on the horizon to help build that collaboration model out even more.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I love it. It. One of the other things that actually, Jen, and you and I were talking about this the other day is actually what you guys try to prevent is causing an issue with another surrounding town or area to the already devastated area. And I'm going to ask you to elaborate further on that. But it again, something that didn't really dawn on me personally until after. Like, I'm the guy that shows up to get the person out of harm's way, and then I go home. That's it. The logistics on both sides are insane to me. But Jen, if you don't mind, touch on some of that for me.
Yeah. And, everybody, we all want, to go in there, like be that, it's
I want to help.
The vital part, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to help, right? And there's definitely time and a place for that, right? And we do that too, right? Like, get in there, get the ball rolling, like hit the ground running. Yes, we need to do that. But also, and everyone's heart is in the right place. Everyone's very their intentions are pure and they mean well. But for example, and this is something I experienced, or that an observation I had was, there was an area or a town close to, it was the first fully functioning town closest to like the epicenter of where, in North Carolina, where the majority of the damage had been done. And this group was notified, hey, we need, baby supplies. And so they went in and cleaned out all the baby supplies of Walmart and the stores. Well, now you've created actually an issue and a problem for the local community, right?
Right.
Now they're out of supplies. And so it's balancing that, meeting the need and getting the right aid to the right people at the right time, getting it sourced from the right locations, right? Like you don't want to end up sending a pallet of preemie diapers to a nursing home that is begging for Depends. And
hey, I don't mean to laugh, but that's so true.
It is, right?
These are not going to fit. I'm just going to say that.
They're not going to fit. And yeah, I mean, it's a basic example. It's kind of funny, but it's something as simple as that. And even, making sure that the clothing that is coming in, right, that it's wearable clothing. It's not stuff that's full of holes or that's dirty, right? These people have already been traumatized and have lost everything. Let's give them, basic, solid, good clothing, right? And yeah, so I think, and again, it's people's hearts are pure. They're, they mean well. And it's just something that people probably don't think about, but it is something that we've observed and noticed, at every disaster, every response, you kind of have that. So we try really hard to make sure when we, get aid that we can get an adequate number, distribute it to the proper locations, right? And that's a constantly revolving door. It's nonstop. And so that is another thing that we work hard to ensure that the right aid gets to the right people and that we're not taking away from other communities in the meantime.
And it's like, it's so smart too. Like, again, not something that I personally ever thought about. Like, oh yeah, because I'd be the first guy. Oh, you need diapers? Hey, I'll just go to the local Walmart right here. I'll buy the shelf and send it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the local people are going in there. They're like, hey,
right.
And now they've got to go to the next spot over, or the next town, or the next county, whatever it is. And God forbid, it's like an hour drive. Oh my God.
Right. And you already have, logistics of moving, supplies into the area. It's already compromised. So now you're adding to that problem instead of, you're kind of increasing liability instead of, decreasing it. So it's just something for people to be aware of. And that's something we always work on as well.
Yeah.
I like it.
We'll typically take it a step further too, as far as just as our deployment goes, right, to not make an issue or take away from local stuff, is we come completely self-sustained. We'll sleep in our cars or in tents, or we did sleep in hotels this time, but we drove over an hour to get to the hotel, right, to get out of the affected area. So it's the same kind of general principle, right, is they've been through enough, like, don't take their resources at this point, kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Again, super smart and something I didn't think about. This is why we have you guys like in charge of that. I'm just saying. This is why I call you. Like, all right, Bob, Jen, what do I got? And you're like, yeah, don't go to that Walmart.
Don't go to that Walmart.
Go to the ones that's like. I don't mean to make a joke out of that. It is reality, and it's very interesting to me because it's not something that I personally would have thought about. So
yeah,
thanks for touching on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Jed, you and I were talking a little bit as well. So in Asheville, you have a story that kind of stands out to you because there was a mother that was on oxygen, and I don't want to even take away from it. So what was that?
Yes. So we were about an hour west of Asheville and had delivered some aid to a local church that was acting as a hub for other, kind of as a distribution center for other churches and organizations in the area. And while we were there, a lady drove up and asked if she could get some water. And I noticed she had some fuel cans in the back of her car. And so I asked her, I said, do you need fuel? And she goes, you have some? And I said, yeah, we have fuel. And so I just grabbed a couple of gas cans and, put them in her trunk, and she started crying and shared her story that her mom has dementia. And first of all, this lady had just lost her husband very, very recently. And so they had no power. They had no running water. Her mother is on oxygen 24/7. Her mother has dementia. And so she was having a really, really difficult time with the darkness, right? Not having light. And they had to go out and buy a generator just to keep her oxygen generator going. And she was just so, so grateful. And I know I sent you a little clip, but that clip is actually 4 minutes.
With the anxiety, she has to be. And if she doesn't say a lot, she loses it. Totally loses it. Well, I appreciate you talking how much.
I'm really glad to be able to help you guys.
Great.
Yeah. And, and again, it's something small, perhaps, it's not the cool part of going out and pulling somebody out, but it is such a vital component, right? And again, it's providing somebody with the means and the ways to take care of themselves and their families. Initially, when the water main was damaged in Asheville, they said that it could be months before they got water back. And thankfully, that was not the case. They got water back. I know they were still under a boil water advisory very recently. I don't know if that changed or not, but, things are finally moving forward a little bit. But again, it's cool to make what might just seem like a little difference is going to be a huge difference for somebody that's affected.
That's a great statement right there. That little difference. I ask people to come on this podcast and tell their stories all the time. And I get this a lot of like, oh, my story is not big enough or bad enough. It's not like I was in this, oh my God, life or death situation. But what everybody, and I hope everybody understands this, is that it's that little thing right there, that ripple effect that made somebody's day 100 times better. And not just the day, the week, the month, or whatever. Like that's what I'm talking about. That's why I love talking about this stuff. It's that warm to the heart, means something. So.
It's definitely the human connection, and that's what people will remember, and that's what keeps them going.
Heck yeah, it's amazing. You know what? You said something else there, and I gotta touch on it because I've heard this over and over and over with the different episodes that I've released with when it comes to like the devastation from Hurricane Helene, is the church community. Oh my gosh. The church community came together like nothing I have personally ever seen before. Like, boom. It was like, this church is helping this church. And that's amazing. Yeah. God said, stand by. I got this one.
Right. And
it's awesome.
I feel like I see that in every disaster, that the churches will come together. And, when you look back at the history of things, that was the original missionary work, the original, group where people would go to get help. Right. And those that would help others. And you see that people coming together and helping each other out. And it's really, really cool to see that.
It is cool. I'll bring in you guys right now because like when you have people, the I'm going to call them the average Joes out there, right? The average people that maybe attend church, they might not have the same connections that you guys at Beacon Rescue have. So the same question could be asked to both of you, and you guys are showing up with an entire truckload of whatever they need, whereas they're calling and they're trying to get local this, local that. So that distribution area and the resources and where you're pulling from could be very, very different. So yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Okay, so now I want to bring you guys, because you were not done in North Carolina. This is something else that blows my mind with this, is when you guys were in North Carolina, you're helping out, and then all of a sudden, Hurricane, was it Milton? Was that the name of it?
Yep.
It was
Milton.
Yeah, Hurricane Milton is turned into a Category 5, headed to destroy Florida. And thank God it didn't get bad. It downgraded quickly, but you sent responses. Your teams were like, we're on our way. We're going to help because that's the next big one. Talk to me. How did all that come about? we're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors. The RealResQStore.com. Your shop for all your podcast-worthy gear. From comfortable shirts to cozy mugs, we've got everything to showcase your love for your favorite podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head to the RealResQStore.com and let your gear do the talking.
Yeah, so I drove up from Orlando to Charlotte and then, west. And I think after 4 days, I spun around and drove back.
Good for you.
Because I had to do some hurricane prep, at the place. And also, what we like to do, if at all possible, is for the storms that we know are coming in, we pre-stage. So our goal with pre-staging is being able to set up in an area that's outside of the hot zone, because we don't want to become a liability. We don't want to become a rescue ourselves, right? So make sure we are pre-staged so we can hit the ground running and go in as soon as it's cleared to do so, as soon as it's, passable and safe to do so. So we don't, the rescue people do not need to become rescued themselves.
Yeah.
That's
that tends to cause problems.
It looks cool when you're chasing storms and you're driving through the tornadoes, but
not cool when you got to get rescued from somebody else.
Yes. You're like, that's not the goal. The goal is for the team to, hit the ground running and stay functional. So it was kind of fun because we actually pre-staged at my old residence. And I say my former residence because I've just very recently relocated to South Carolina. So nice. Yes. So came in and pre-staged and had several team members come in there. We had a couple others that pre-staged more on the west side inland. And so we were able to, get together, get everything rocking and rolling. And then when the storm passed, we were able to head west and south. And it was quite the little adventure. And, thank God the storm did not turn out to be as catastrophic as it was initially made out to be. But I will say that I had two friends that lost their homes. One in St. Pete.
I'm sorry to hear that.
They had never had flooding in their home, completely demolished during Hurricane Helene. Another friend on Treasure Island completely lost her home. And so, they're still dealing with this from Hurricane Helene. And then to have another storm come in, that would have been beyond catastrophic. So everyone's very grateful that the storm was, downgraded in intensity for sure.
Yeah. So when you went down to Florida, you guys actually worked with a drone out there to help with some of the structures and whatnot to set up.
Yes. Yep. So Brink Drones came in and pre-staged with us. Chase from Brink Drones came in and pre-staged. Nice. And so after the storm, passed through the next morning, we all drove down and we ended up in the Inglewood community as well as Minnesota Key beaches. And so in Inglewood, which was kind of our first area that we were able to stop in, we did several wellness checks, and there were homes that were completely blown out. I mean, cinder block homes where there were partial walls standing. It was really wild. I helped during Hurricane Ian, and I had not seen anything of this intensity. And we were able to do, again, multiple wellness checks. There was a gentleman that appeared to have some mental status type changes. And again, you don't know, is this recent? Is this an ongoing dementia type thing? So we're able to get in touch with the local sheriff's department. They had somebody out there right away. It turned out well. They knew of this person. They had a dog. And so as an animal lover, I always keep, dog bowls in my truck and some food. So the dog was fed and given water. So
nice.
Took care of that.
You and my wife are going to great.
There was a lady, she had checked herself out of the hospital. She had been in there for chemo treatment. She's in what was left of her house. You could see the port. in her. And, I went up. I mean, one vehicle was completely buried down in the ditch. Her house was blown out. It was just cinder block walls. And she was there just to see whatever clothes could be salvaged out of her closets she was trying to put all those in plastic bags before she would go back to the hospital to check herself back in. So,
Wow.
We were able to help her with that. There was, this gentleman was a veteran. They had just, 10 days ago gone through Hurricane Helene. When we drove up, he and his wife were kind of sitting in the front yard looking shell-shocked, honestly, just very like, we're done. We're just done. And I don't know if it was her mother, on oxygen, wheelchair. And there was just so much stuff out in the yard. And I said, hey, can we help you guys? And he said, I don't even know where to start. And we just pitched in with cleanup, getting large appliances. They had a house at the canal, and then they had survived by going up on the second floor of their garage, where they were currently staying. So they had evacuated, of course, during the hurricane, come back in. But they had been there for 30 years and had never had any flooding. And Hurricane Helene and then Hurricane Milton both hit them. And so we got in there and just, started cleaning up like the debris in the yard, sweeping, the large appliances that were strewn out and about, dishwasher. I think I helped drag a stove out, just things like that. Again, it's not the glorious part, but it's such a necessary part. He was in tears and he said, I'm the one that always helps people. I never ask for help. And it's, that kind of hits home, right? It's these, especially when it's the people that are the tough ones that are always out there doing, when you can do for them, that's really impactful. And it makes such a difference. And from there, we went on to Minnesota Key Beach, and we were able to work with one of the local emergency management centers, and using our Brink drone team, they went in and were able to fly the drones and check structures. And so we marked off, which homes we were able to check, if we were able to get in contact with any of the homeowners, the status of the homes, right? Whether it was fully collapsed, partially collapsed, and we were able to transfer that file, hand that over, and pass that on, to that local emergency management system. And having the drones there again was super nice and helpful, because they're able to go in and not only using, thermal imaging, but they have audio capabilities as well, and all kinds of other cool capabilities.
Wow.
I can't even tell you about. But for example, so drones can break through glass. And so being able to assess the structural integrity of a building without having to actually go into it yourself, right? Like, that is a huge game changer. Because a lot of these buildings, underneath the foundation have been completely washed out from the hurricane. And so, there's a couple homes that, they had their pools, and the pools had dropped like 20 feet down. It was just,
oh my
bizarre.
gosh.
Yeah. It was very, very interesting looking.
You went from a 10-foot pool to a 20-foot pool?
Where it washed out underneath, right? The pool just dropped down.
Now all of a sudden you have a high dive? I'm just saying.
Right?
Like, you make lemonade out of lemons. I'm just saying.
Right. So
upset first, and then you're like, oh, but now we get a high dive. Yeah. Sorry, that's terrible. I don't mean to make
No. It's
dark humor. It's what I have to do in order to, that's what we do.
We can all relate to that. Yes, 100%.
Okay. If you can't handle dark humor, you are not listening to the right podcast. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Word. Yeah. So, and, even having some of the homeowners go, oh my gosh, thank you for, being able to, share like some of the footage and whatnot with them. They were really grateful for that, to have that. And then collaborating further with the local EOCs, being able to set up some Starlinks. I mean, all of that is, it's ongoing. And, again, Florida was thankfully not the horrific impact that everybody was thinking it would be. And everybody's super grateful for that. But there was definitely still a need, because a lot of people that were affected by Hurricane Helene were re-affected by Hurricane Milton.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I do want to highlight putting a drone team with Jen was extremely risky for us, because Jen is known to break all technology we give her. So we had to roll the dice on that one, and
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
we told them don't let Jen fly it, right? Like nope. But it worked out really well. So to hear Jen discuss the drone and how capable it was is fun.
That's great, because Jen, if you and I are like similar, I'd be like, yeah, I'll fly it. I got this.
I'll fly, yeah.
Hold my drink. I got it. Oh, I don't got it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So oh, that's great. That's great.
So.
Everything that you've been talking about is just what I love. I think more than anything else is the fact that you're connecting so many people with so many different assets out there. And even like you said, you're giving it to the local rescue teams that are going to go in for the structures. You're like, hey, here's what this looks like right now. Hey, take it. Oh, you know what? You need this right now. And the lady that just needed like fuel. You guys have such an impact on what you're dispersing. It's like, wow, it's incredible. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
The amount that by collaborating, right, you exponentially, create more impact. Not only you, but also those organizations that you're collaborating with, because you're all working as a team. That it's beautiful to see when it works. So it as opposed to just doing something on your own, you don't make as much impact as when you group up and collaborate. So
yeah.
And it's fun. And I just have to share this, because this for me was just kind of this is cool thing, where we pre-staged out of in Florida, in my former residence. The front yard is a huge front yard. And I said, man, I wonder if this could be used as an HLZ if we needed it, right? Because again, at this point, the storm was going to be really gnarly, and we weren't sure what the need was going to be. And I think we had 5 helos on standby.
Yeah.
5 helos on standby.
Wait, I'm sorry. You guys had 5 helos on standby?
Yeah. Well, it was again through collaboration with another.
I got a guy.
group.
I got a guy.
Yep. I got a guy.
Don't worry, I got a guy.
Yep.
Well, and we have the guy that heads up the air side of our whole organization. He's prior military, flew for the 160th, so he knows how to put a bird down in the right spot. So it all works seamlessly when it works, right?
Oh my gosh!
So
I'm sorry, Jen. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
You had me with. I had 5 helicopters on standby. Just throwing that out there, like, wow.
Yeah, and so basically, shot this over to our guy, like, hey, I send a little video, like, this is my front yard. Could we use this as an HLZ if we needed to? And next thing I know, I get a whole diagram, like HLZ diagram, and I was like, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And I think I added that in to our pictures. So
I do have it in here. Yeah. That's fantastic.
So that was a little fun component, but it's definitely the networking, the collaborations, and those people that you meet along the way. We did a fuel run in Florida, and in this neighborhood, we were driving by, missed a turn, but saw this like elderly gentleman with a handheld hacksaw trying to cut through branches, like in his yard to clean up. And turns out this was an 80-year-old Vietnam veteran, a CB, retired CB, and his name was Dwight. And so we had one of our Navy vets and one of our other nurses grab chainsaws and help him clean up. And he was just so grateful, and it kind of touches me because my father's Vietnam vet. He's 81. I get a call every so often from my mother. Your father's back on the roof cleaning off branches. So, it's when you're able to help people that despite, age or whatever, they're out there and they're trying, and you can go in and make their life a little easier during a time like this. It just really hits home. So it's the little things
Heck
and the big
yeah.
things. And it's just being able to walk in your purpose doing this work is really, really special and a huge blessing. So
I love it, man. Thanks for sharing that one, Jen. And here's the greatest part about this. Ready? I don't even know if this is, I've had so many greatest parts about this whole conversation. I'm not sure I have any more greatest parts left, but you guys have not stopped. You went back up to North Carolina after the hurricane came through Florida. You're like, okay, would this still help? It needs to be up there. So you went back up. And like, as of this recording, you're still working with people up there to help. Oh my gosh.
we have
there's a lot still going on out there.
Yeah. We have such an incredible volunteer base, and all of us are volunteers, right? Like, we are all volunteers with regular lives. And I would say, like, our volunteers are just the most amazing, kind-hearted, servant-hearted people, and go get them dinners. It is incredible. And, everyone is donating their time and their own money and all the things to go help serve, right? And utilizing our, the collaborations, the networking, we can just keep that ball rolling. And when one person, has to step out, somebody else can step in. And it's really cool when you get to do this purpose-filled work with, like-minded individuals. And I'm so grateful for it. And it's just awesome.
It's an incredible feeling. I love it as well. So, man, this is awesome. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. And again, with volunteers, people are volunteering to help you guys. We all have a normal job, or is that such a thing? A normal job? I'm not really sure what actually a normal job is, but I'll say we all have a job to do that's not doing something else, and we all take time off, and time, money, efforts, equipment. There's so many people that have come on this podcast to tell what they've given, including my own dad, who went up with chainsaws and gas. And I'm like, solid work. Way to go, Dad. Yeah. For what you guys are doing, I think it's amazing. I'm so glad that we can help get the word out for what you're doing. Bob, how do people get in touch with you?
So they can reach us we're on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and we have a website, beaconrescue.org, that'll also link you to those three as well. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. I think the main email that gets to us also is info@beaconrescue.org, and that's our main way people can reach out through email.
Cool. And if somebody wants to volunteer their time or help you guys even further, that's a place to go?
Reach out.
Absolutely, yeah. And they don't need to be local, right? They can be anywhere, because we've got people on every coast of the country, and actually a couple volunteers that are in Europe too. So
wow,
there's always assistance that we can have on the back end, through collaboration or boots on the ground, no matter where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, we've been on for about an hour now, and you guys have told me some amazing stuff. So you got one more opportunity. If you have any more stories that you want to share or any more shout outs you want to give, now's your chance. Bob, hit it.
Yeah, I'll do a quick shout out. So we're doing a fundraiser on Sunday. I know it'll be, this will air after that, but the fundraising will continue, because the fundraiser is we're going to put together a drive for Christmas. So it's going to be a teddy bear and gift card drive for the kids in one of these areas that is hardest hit. The idea is to be able to give them a teddy bear where they can immediately have something, and a gift card so that they can purchase a toy or whatever supplies they need, but they can purchase it local as well. So the money stays within that local economy and helps put people back to work and get money back in their pockets that way as well. So that's going to be a big push coming up. So you can go to our website and donate there to get involved, as well as if you don't have the time, that works too.
Cool. Right on. Jen.
Well, I'll throw this out. So I, as of a couple days ago, signed up to do the 2025, the Baton Memorial Death March, which will be in March.
That sounds amazing and terrible at the same time.
It does.
Baton Death March. Oh, okay.
The Baton Memorial Death March, White Sands missile area. So I will be rucking 26.2 miles with a 35-pound pack. And I signed up for it, and then I've decided, okay, we're going to turn this into a fundraiser. I don't have details on it yet, but that will be another fundraising opportunity. So I'm committed. It's public. Here we go.
Yeah. Get after it, girl. Let's go. I like it. I like it a lot.
So.
Well, Bob, Jen, thank you guys so much for coming on and joining me and just telling what you guys are doing currently, what you have done, and the impact that you've made to so many lives. I absolutely love it, and I appreciate you coming on. So
thank you so much for having
me. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I had a good time as well. And, just like at one point or another, we're going to have to get together for a beer or two, and that way we can tell more stories about what's going on, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
I love it. I love it. Well, until then, you guys, thank you again, and I'll catch you guys later. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go!
Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at The Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft. As a fully integrated system, or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station, the PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
And therealrescuestore.com, your shop for all your podcast-worthy gear. From comfortable shirts to cozy mugs, we've got everything to showcase your love for your favorite podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head to therealrescuestore.com and let your gear do the talking.
Go!
Good morning. This is Jen with Beacon Rescue. I am currently in Madison County, North Carolina, and at the intersection of 70 and 25. And there is a family doing a distro here that is growing. And Kelly is who started this. She spent $700 at Sam's Club on cat and dog food and quickly realized there was a great need. A lot of the seniors have been coming down to her distribution place here. People are requesting cleaning supplies, cold weather items. She was explaining that a lot of the seniors in her community here aren't necessarily feeling comfortable for some reason going to the bigger distribution centers. And this location just has worked out really, really well. They had a food truck yesterday that came and gave out free food. One of the other needs that they are getting a lot of requests for, besides cleaning supplies and cold weather, clothing and items, are specialized infant formulas such as goat's milk, baby formula, and things of that nature. While I was here, a gentleman pulled up, a younger gentleman, and he literally seemed shell-shocked. He's like, I don't even know what I need. I know I need chicken food, and I never thought I would need chicken food. And he shared how his mother is at home and was just needing some things, and he was so, so grateful. And he looked at me, he goes, you guys have restored my faith in humanity, like seeing this and seeing the communities come together. So I'm just so grateful that we're out here really affecting lives, and that people are seeing everyone come together, right? Volunteers from all walks of life, communities pulling together, people that have lost everything that in turn are now volunteering. And that is really, really neat. And thank you to everybody. It's prayers, it is donations, it is physically showing up. It is supporting those, like even family members of ours that are supporting us. Something small, my mom, she baked several loaves of zucchini bread. Was like, please take these with you. And she had cut them into slices and individually wrapped these slices. I gave several to this gentleman because his mom's a vegetarian. He was in tears. Kelly and her team that are doing this over here, they were just so grateful. And it's little things like that. So I've had a lot of people asking, what can I do? How can I support? And there are just so many ways. So thank you, everybody.